Ooh. Welcome in, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to our True Real Estate Exchange training. Today, we will not have training at 7 p.m. However, we have bumped it up to 12 p.m. Eastern so that we can bring you very important information regarding title. All right, so I'm going to introduce my guest in a second, but in the meantime, right, let's send out the link. All right, we want to make sure that none of our business partners miss this information. Of course, it's being recorded. However, it's a different type of feel when you're here live so that we can ask questions to our guests and really, elevate our business. All right. Again, guys, I'm Crystal Mestrez Bishop, Director of Growth here with our True Real Estate Exchange. And Claudiane is, of course, our host for today. We have a special guest, and it's coming from New World Title. All right. And that is Mei-Ling Montelongo. And we are super excited to have her on the call because we're going to be going over title and regarding how to identify fraud and so much more. All right. So 1201, all team leaders, let's send out a text to our organization. They do not want to miss this training. If you are a team leader and you do not see your business partner on the line, now's the time to share out the link. All right. Let's give it another 60 seconds or so before we start and reintroduce our guest. I want to welcome in all our attendees that turned on their cameras and everyone on here. Welcome, Carmilla. Welcome, Lori. Hi, Lori. Hi, Tequila. Hi, Rosemary, Sonia, Shanice, Tanya. Welcome in. If you guys could turn on your screens, we'd love to see your face. If you cannot, we understand. We have Shamika on the line. Love it, love it. All right, guys, I see a lot of team leaders here. Let's send out the link and that reminder that we're on training. Let them know that at 7 o'clock today, we will not have a training. Training is happening now. All right. All right, let me reset the room. Welcome in, everyone. I'm Crystal Mestrez Bishop, Director of Growth here at True Real Estate Exchange. We are being trained by a special guest today, Mei-Ling Montelongo. All right, guys, say that 10 times fast. But we're super excited to have you on here from New World Title. So with no further ado, Mei-Ling, the floor is yours. Welcome in, everyone.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good afternoon, everyone. It is Wednesday. Thank God it is Wednesday. I literally was on the way here yelling at my kid that he missed his 9:30 college class. And he's like, Mom, it's Wednesday. It's not Thursday. And I'm like, thank God it's Wednesday. I'm sorry I woke you up early. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Please, my apologies. Thank you so much for having us to be number one part of your organization and part of your team. And I'm very honored to be here with all of you today and share some knowledge and wisdom. One of the things that I'm always advocating to the professional real estate community is to have your team have your allies. And in your real estate business, you should always consider your title partners your best ally. And there's several reasons as to why. The most common, obviously, is supporting your business, providing you with the closing experience that not only you deserve, but your clients deserve, but also because of the fact that title partners and title agencies, we deal with a lot of multiple transactions every month, right? And the reason for that is the reason why you want to have a title partner as your ally is we can come in and guide you and walk you through all of these different scenarios. So for instance, an average agent may close anywhere between 8 to 10 deals a year. Out of those 8 to 10 deals, maybe you've never experienced a code violation transaction or that of a bankruptcy or a probate, right? And we're going to dive into all of that and why that's important in the title insurance. But title companies, we deal with that on multiple occasions. So the right title partner is going to walk you through step by step what you need to do or what has to happen in those types of scenarios, if that makes sense. So I'm just going to share my screen. I'm going to dive in to the training, and there is a lot that we're going to talk about. There is a lot I am going to go over. So if anyone has any questions throughout this session, just go ahead and put them in the chat. I'll kind of go through them every once in a while. I'll take a little pause so I can answer the questions as we go through the trainings. And the one topic we're going to talk about today, which is what I often say, the least talked about insurance policy, yet it is the most important type of policy in a transaction, right? And that is title insurance. Now, I don't know how many of you on this call have heard about or maybe even experienced a transaction where title fraud was taking place, right? And I'm going to go over step by step what is title fraud, what are title issues, and why is having title insurance important. And I'm so happy that you guys are putting this training on because believe it or not, oftentimes a lot of buyers, especially buyers, the first thing that they're going to look at is on their closing statement is, hey, Crystal, why am I paying for title insurance? What is this? Can I opt out of it? Right. And the reason for that is it's not explained to them the importance of it until you get to that question. So my goal here is to walk you through what it is, how it is, and if you do get that question from your buyer, you're already equipped to kind of give them just a small summary of what title insurance is and how it can protect them from title fraud in the future, if that makes sense. Again, any questions, just put them into the chat. A little bit about my history, so everyone feels comfortable with what I'm going to provide. So I've been in this business since 1999. Straight out of high school, my mom owned a title company and a Century 21 franchise. So basically, throughout my entire life, almost always, I have been involved in the real estate space. I have done junior processing, closer, funding, audit, not my favorite thing to do, but I did it anyways. Funding, sales manager. I got my title license officially back in 2009 and joined New World Title in 2014. I've been with them for 10 years now as their sales and managing partner, also the closing advisor for the company. Enough about that. We'll just get right into the nooks and crannies. All right. So I'm going to first start off with setting expectations, right? And I think this is an important part to understand what your title company and what your title partner, what their role and responsibility essentially is, okay? The first thing is a title agent, we have two roles. That's what it is. We have two roles here. The first one is we have to act in the capacity of a title agent, meaning that title insurance underwriters, they're basically who we work for, right? So our job is to make sure that the title of the property is clear and all of the seller's debts, whatever is against the property attached to the seller, is cleared off before we transfer that property to the buyer, right? That is our main core responsibility. The other thing that we do is we are a natural party to this contract, meaning we represent everyone. We don't solely represent the seller. We don't solely represent the buyer. Our job is to help and make sure that this property, when it's transferred, it's cleared. So if a seller has questions regarding anything having to do with their property, we're going to answer that. Same thing with the buyer. So we're a neutral party, everyone, right? That being said, I know that there is.
Mei-Ling,
Yeah.
give me 1 second. The audio sounds a little crazy. Hold on, let me mute out some people.
Yeah.
Guys, coming onto the line, please mute yourselves. Give me 1 second. Let me come here and mute everyone before we move on. Mute all. Okay. And do me a favor, Mei-Ling, unmute yourself now. All right, perfect.
I'm good.
Mute all. All right, you're good to go. My apologies.
It's okay. No, don't worry. It's good. So going back to that, right? I know that this is a trend that has kind of come about within the last few years, right? And I love my attorney partners. My closest friends happen to be attorneys, but I feel that there is a misconception when it comes to, hey, I'm going to hire an attorney to do this transaction because the attorney is going to represent me. That's not necessarily the case. When you hire an attorney, as a title agent, they have to act in the same capacity as I do. There is no difference. They can either represent the client solely as a sole representation, but they cannot represent the client and act as the title agent at the same time. Does that make sense? So I know a lot of agents and a lot of buyers are like, oh, well, I want to hire, this attorney because they're going to represent me. That is not the case. And I want to make sure that that's very clear, because believe it or not, it is a frustration that I hear often from my attorney friends, where they come in and say, well, my hands are tied. Like, I'm tied on my hands here because they think that I'm fully representing them, but I'm acting as a title agent. So I have to act as a neutral party, right? So kind of keep that in mind. Our second role is acting as a settlement agent. This is where we're coming in, we're the middleman, we're getting all of the monies coming in from buyers and sellers, we're coordinating the closing docs for the buyer, closing docs for the seller, we're drafting them, we're taking care of all of the escrows, disbursements, and filing everything, the deed and the mortgages, if any, to the county courthouse. So I always like to start off every training setting the expectations of what it is that we do on our end. And usually I get a couple ahas, and usually it's like, okay, now it makes sense. Now I understand what the role is of a title company. So let's talk about title insurance, right? The least talk about policy that there is. Title is essentially evidence of ownership and possession of the property. So it's your warranty deed, right? It's the title. It's basically saying, hey, Crystal has ownership of this property. Lori has ownership of this property, right? Title insurance is a policy that basically protects the new owner from anything in the past, right? So flood insurance, hazard insurance, that's going to protect the homeowner from instances in the future. Title insurance is a protection from the past. And I'm going to go through what we have to do to issue that title policy. So I'll give you an example, right? Let's say, for instance, you do a closing and the title company or the mortgage company, which happens a lot, it doesn't record the satisfaction of mortgage. Two other sellers have kind of come in, and you're now at this closing table and you're hearing from the title company, hey, Lori, I need to get a copy of the title insurance policy because there is a pending mortgage from 2 sellers ago that mortgage is not shown as released or recorded. Typically, if you have a title insurance policy, all we have to do is get that copy, show evidence that this title company did in fact pay this mortgage off, and it's just a matter that the mortgage company did not record a satisfaction of mortgage, and done. Call it a day. It's removed from the policy, it's removed from the property. You can move forward because we have that policy. What do you think would happen if a homeowner did not have that title insurance policy or did not have proof? It can get very complicated. At that point, the closing is stopped. Now this new owner has to hire an attorney, go through a process of that's called suit to quiet title, and send this to the courthouse so that the courthouse and the attorney can gather all the evidence to show proof that this mortgage was in fact paid off, to remove it from title. Does that make sense? Hopefully I used a really good example, because believe it or not, this happens a lot where we get title commitments and we still see a mortgage that was from a previous seller. It doesn't mean it wasn't paid off. It just means that a satisfaction of mortgage wasn't recorded in county records. So that mortgage is still showing pending, right? So that's basically what a title insurance policy is in a nutshell. It just protects the homeowner from issues that may have happened in the past, things that may have not been recorded from the previous owner. So I put here protection from the past. That's essentially what it is. Now, what is an owner's policy? I know you guys have seen it. Have you ever wondered why your CD is going to show a section where it says lender's title insurance and then a section that says owner's title insurance? Well, a title insurance policy essentially protects both owners and the lender, right? And this separation came about after the foreclosure boom of 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010, right? In 2015, the CFPB decided to say, listen, we have to disclose on public records that the lender is also protected under this title insurance policy. So when we issue a title insurance policy and there is a lender involved, the lender is also protected from any discrepancies or any issues from previous owners, right? It covers two different things, right? So an owner's policy, the beneficiary is the property owner, right? The purpose obviously is to protect the property's interest, protect them against any losses from past issues. Here is the cool thing about title insurance policy altogether, whether it represents the owner or represents the lender. This title insurance policy is effective for as long as they're the owners of the property, okay? So if they own the property for 15 years, they're covered for 15. If they own it for 5, they're covered for 5. The other amazing thing about this policy is that it is a one-time payment at closing, meaning that it's not like hazard insurance. You're paying monthly and yearly for it. It's one-time cost. You're protected for as long as you own the property. Now, I do need to disclose this because I do see this happening a lot, and it also has a lot to do with title fraud. If you, let's say Claudine purchases the property, right? She is the owner. She has it, sole proprietor. 3 years along the line, she says, you know what? I'm going to quit claim deed this over to my corporation. The moment anyone deeds themselves off and puts this property under a corporation or another entity, they have physically removed their name from this policy. They are no longer covered by title insurance. Title insurance is only given to the person that is on title and the person that purchased it at the time of closing. Very important to know and to understand, because a lot of people, especially investors, especially international investors, they come in and they're like, I'm going to purchase this property under my name, and then I'm going to deed it to my corporation. The minute you do that and something appears on your title, or someone tries to fraudulently do a quick claim deed, you do not have that protection of the title insurance policy. Okay, so I just wanted to put that in there and make sure everybody understands how that works, because we have had situations like that. The lender's policy, same concept. Beneficiary is the mortgage lender, protects the lender from any interest or issues from previous owners. The duration, again, only lasts until that mortgage is paid off. So if they refinance it and the buyer is getting a new mortgage lender, that old lender doesn't have protection. No harm, no foul. It just moves on. Same thing, duration only effective till the mortgage is paid off. One-time payment, cost. Listen, guys, when it comes to cost, I'm going to be very transparent right now. Every single title company in the state of Florida has to go based off the formula. So if it's a $300,000 home, the policy is $1,575, period, point blank, end of story. There is not a single title company in the state that can charge more than $1,500, period, end of story. There is no different, it's not based off of a percentage or, this title company is overcharged. Title policy insurance premium is the same across the board, if that makes sense. I have a question. Even if you put it in a trust, yes, even if you put it in a trust, the minute that you're physically taken out of this property, it moves over. Now, there are exceptions to certain rules, right? You would have to hire an attorney. The attorney would have to specifically state that this is the homestead of the beneficiary of the trust, and then you can battle that with title insurance underwriters. But in a nutshell, the way I like to explain it is, if you remove yourself from title after you purchased it and put it in another name, yes, there is a very high possibility that you're going to lose that title insurance policy, because the underwriters don't know it's under a trust. Title insurance underwriters, when they look up the policy, they're looking up your name. That's all they have on records. It's the name. They don't have that the trust is insured. That's the whole purpose of it. But again, yes, you can talk to an attorney and have them draft the trust accordingly so you can send it back to the title insurance underwriter and not lose that policy, if that makes sense. Okay, moving forward. All right, let's get into the nitty-gritty here, right? What is title fraud? So title fraud in a nutshell is an unauthorized transfer of sale or property using forged documents. Guys, I can't even begin to tell you how many quitclaim deeds we ourselves have flagged as fraudulent. And it can be the most minor mistake. The notary that was used was a fake notary. The notary stamp that was used was an expired. My favorite of all time is the owner that is transferring the property was acting as a witness. Red flag, nobody that's named in this title currently can act as a witness. A witness may have been a mother, a father, someone close to them in their family, and then obviously, signatures, right? So it's a very big thing, especially when it comes to quitclaim deeds and title transfers. I will tell you this: anytime that we do see, although it's approved and although it's allowed, it certainly is, but there is a high risk of it. Whenever we see a quitclaim deed that was done electronically or via remote, we question it. And the reason is because of AI. I personally have taken trainings on remote online notarizations on how to detect and avoid fraud. And it's pretty crazy to me where the person, the fraudster, can physically be on the screen and AI video. This person looks real. If you're not paying attention to the movement of the face, I mean, if I go like this, obviously my lips are gonna, like there's indications that you can tell if a person on the other side of the screen is AI. Their voices, it's insane what you can do through AI. So yes, we do heavily look at quitclaim deeds to detect if there was any frauds on there. I'm sure you guys know about land fraud. I'm sure some of you, we have 27 people on this call. I'm sure someone in here has already been in a situation where a seller calls them and says, hey, I have this vacant lot that I want to sell. And the title company comes back and says, hold on, wait, red flag. This isn't even the owner. We have to examine this quitclaim deed. So title fraud is real, okay? Some common targets: properties with no mortgages, vacant lots. I gotta add that on there. And the big one is elderly homeowners, to the point where there are now and have been, there's always been elderly law attorneys, but right now I see them popping up more and more and more because of title fraud, because of these situations. Not only that, believe it or not, title fraud can happen within a family. We've seen it. We've seen where a grandchild tried to fraudulently do a quitclaim deed so that he can sell his grandmother's house, which his grandmother was in hospice. Like, tell me, isn't that crazy? Like, how insane can that sound? But it's the truth. It typically happens within the family, right? What are some of the types of title frauds that we do see? Fake documents and signatures, identity theft, obviously impersonating the property owner, and then filing fake liens to claim unpaid debts. Listen, I am a divorced woman. I've been divorced now for, I don't know, my son's 19, like 14 years, I think. If I wanted to go right now, and because I'm just mad for whatever reason, I can go to the civil courthouse and I can file a lien against my ex-husband and say, you owe me $50,000. The minute that anything gets recorded under a person's name and they have property, that lien will go against his property. So if he ever decides to sell, refinance, whatever he wants to do, this title company is going to pull up this report. And guess what they're going to find? They're going to find the lien that I placed for $50,000 that he has to pay at the time of closing. If it's that easy for me to do that, could you imagine what these fraudulent hackers are doing, where they're coming up with fake liens and saying, hey, I did roof work, or hey, I did electrical work, whatever the case is, so that they can go ahead and eventually get paid, right? I have seen a few of those, but the majority and the most common ones that I have personally seen and we have personally seen have been through quitclaim deeds, forging fake documents, and then obviously identity theft. But can they do fake liens? Absolutely, they totally can, right? So let's go into this one is what is title fraud, right? Now I'm going to dive into what are title issues. So title issues is they're basically clouds on title. They obviously are reporting a problem. So when a title company gets a new contract, we order the title and the city lien search the day we get that contract, right? This is going to show us what we have. And this is where we're going to indicate that a quitclaim deed was done, or we have fraudulent liens, or there was a notice of commencement from roof work that was done, that was posted for the previous owner. This is where we're going to see all this, right? If there's any issues that are out of the norm, which is this is your mortgage, this belongs to you, this is your HOA, anything out of the norm is what we consider a title issue or a cloud on title. Typically, these issues, they can prevent a buyer from purchasing the property, and they can prevent the seller from selling it. Now, on your contract, there is a clause, and I want everybody to read this part of the contract, highlight it, circle it. I mean, whatever you can do, flag it if you want to flag it. There is a section on the contract where it specifically states that a seller must close or must provide the buyer with a clear and marketable title at the time of closing. If the seller or if there's issues in this property that cannot be cleared within 30 days, or we have to send this to our attorney, or we have to send this in for forensic review because this deed does not look correct, or this mortgage is still pending, and now we got to chase down the previous title company. Now we got to call the FDIC and chase down, this mortgage company that closed, whatever it is. If it delays the closing, it's actually, I don't want to say it's a seller default, but it's a seller requirement that you do have to provide the buyer with a clear marketable title. So if the closing extends for issues related to title, you guys have that clause there, right? I would just extend it. Or if the seller or if the buyer wants to back out, that's fine. Listen, if the buyer's already done their due diligence and the buyer's already done everything they need to do, and the seller cannot close on that date because there are title issues, do you think the seller would essentially have the right to claim that deposit? Probably not, because there's no clear and marketable title, right? So I just wanted to put that out there so you guys know what it is. So what are some common types of title issues? And again, this is all going towards, the title fraud part. So you have liens on properties. I think that's very basic. We kind of already knows what those are. Errors in public records. So if I do a quitclaim deed, right? And this is typically where we kind of catch a lot of the quitclaim deed fraud or quitclaim deeds that were done incorrectly, right? The only entity, if you want to get a quitclaim deed, or if your client wants to get a quitclaim deed done correctly, the only entity that should do this is an attorney. Believe it or not, there are a lot of quitclaim deeds that are being done by people themselves. That is a red flag number one. So if I look at a quitclaim deed and on the top left-hand corner, I'm going to see prepared by. If I don't see an attorney's name, I'm already going to question this quitclaim deed. I'm already going to examine it even more. Why? Because if an attorney did this, chances are this quitclaim deed shouldn't have any clerical errors. There shouldn't be any red flags on it. But if this quitclaim deed was done by the owner themselves, I'm going to look into this. I'm going to look at my witnesses. I'm going to look at my dates. I'm going to verify however much I can verify. There are sites that we have available that will indicate to us notary information, all of that stuff. But errors in public records can be anything from, a filing mistake, misspelled names, incorrect property descriptions. That's another big one. Sometimes they're just writing this in and they're putting lot 9 instead of lot 7, right? So that's another issue. They can complicate the issues with the closing. We've had quitclaim deeds that we've had to take back, and we've had to tell the seller, you're gonna have to hire an attorney, because typically and technically you don't have the right to sell this property. So you need to go now hire an attorney, fix this quick claim deed, fix this whole chain of title, send it back to me, and then we can go and move forward, right? Another title issue, unknown or undisclosed heirs. Guys, this is another big one for title fraud. Just with thumbs up, or you can even just put it on the chat. How many, there's 26 people on this call. How many of you have had a closing where probate was involved? Where there was a probate matter, meaning that there was a death of an owner. Let's see, do I have any? Ooh, let me go back. Sorry, I went too fast. All right, I don't have any responses. So, okay, we have here, let's see. Yes. Okay, so we have one that has done that. All right, let me explain to you how this works, right? And why title insurance is so important in these situations. If a person passes away, right, and the title, the original title to the property does not have the specific verbiage of joint with right of survivorship, what essentially happens is that this property, whoever wants to sell it, in order for them to sell it, they have to go to an attorney and they have to do a complete probate process, a complete probate process. And a probate process can take anywhere to 8 months to a year, sometimes a year and a half. I mean, we've done probates and closings where there are 12 heirs, 12 heirs. Do you know how difficult? And all across the freaking state. It was a disaster, but we got it done, right? If this person that was selling this property does not go through this probate process, and they decide to say, well, I am going to just draft up a quick claim deed. I'm going to say it's me. I'm not going to go through this. I'm going to sign on behalf of my grandmother, whoever the case is. And they sell this property and they get away with it. And this new buyer, right? The closing happens. Quick claim deed was fraudulently done. Nobody caught that the quick claim deed was fraudulently done. Sell the property. This new buyer is now owner of this property. Can any other heir of the previous seller that passed, can they claim this property? Of course they can. Why? Because the probate was never done. They can come back and say, listen, I don't know who did this closing, but that quick claim deed was fraudulently done. And this title company went ahead and still closed on this property. I have rights to this property. I can inherit this property. This property was my grandfather, grandmother, whoever it is. We found out you guys sold it, but I need to get paid for it. This is part of my property. If a buyer does not have title insurance, do you know the disaster of what that can happen? Do you know the amount of costs that they're going to have to spend in attorney costs just so that they can keep their property? Because guess what? Yeah, this person has the right to it, and that quick claim deed was done fraudulently. So again, it can be for unknown or undisclosed heirs, right? I mean, we've had cases, probate cases, where the probate, the day before the probate was to be completed, we all of a sudden have a mysterious person just come out of nowhere and say, hold on, that person is my cousin. I have rights to this property. Literally the day before the probate courts. It's insane what can happen. But again, why title insurance is possible, is important. Documents, I think we've covered that already. Boundary disputes, this is another title issue we have, as far as, you know, a surveyor doing inaccurate surveys. Now, I'm just going to be very honest here. Anyone on this call, have you guys never made a mistake ever in your life? Like, you guys are completely perfect, like no human error, like never wrote anything wrong. It's impossible. We all are human. We all make mistakes. The same thing that surveyors can make a mistake. You know, title companies can misspell a person's last name. These are just human errors. The title insurance policy will cover you from human errors and people making, and sometimes they'll say, oh my God, that was just a tiny mistake. How could they have like not given me an extra foot? Or how did they miss an extra foot? It happens, right? Again, you have your title insurance policy to protect you. Easements and encroachments, unrecorded legal documents. If previous transactions such as mortgages or sales were not properly recorded, same thing. This goes as an example that I said at the beginning. They can complicate the ownership, creating potential claims. Illegal deeds, must I say anymore, right? And then contractor liens. So contractor liens, this is also a one that we see a lot, right? If a homeowner decides to say, hey, I'm going to go ahead and redo my roof, a contractor comes in, they go through their process, they're supposed to file a notice of commencement and record that in county public records. And what that does is that tells the title company, hey, title company, the seller hired a roofer. The roofer needs to get paid. This is a notice of commencement. This is a notice that the roofer is putting and saying, I'm working on this house. Eventually, I'm going to finish it and the seller is going to pay me. Well, there have been instances where contractors were not told or didn't know that the seller was fixing the roof for intentions of selling it, and the contractor doesn't record a notice of commencement. They record it after the fact. They record it after the sale has been done. So title insurance will cover them from contractor liens that they didn't record it on time. They just recorded it after. So again, it's not anything against the buyer. Title insurance will protect the homeowner with that. So how do there's a lot that we've covered here. Obviously, we know that there's a lot of issues that can happen. I don't want to scare anybody, but I'm glad that we're doing this call because I really want you guys to see how important it is and what are some circumstances that can happen. But there's more to that. In order for a title company to issue a title insurance policy, we have to go through clearing the title. And the reason why I put this on the screen is because I do get asked a lot. Buyers may want to say, hey, I don't want a cash buyer. Let's say, for instance, I want to opt out of a title insurance, right? If there's cash, it is very optional for them. They don't have to purchase title insurance if they don't want to. After this call, would it be recommended? No. You're going to probably say, listen, you need to talk to Maylene at New World Title because this is the policy you're going to want to get. But at the end of the day, if they want to close without it, that's fine. Now, let's say a year down the line or 6 months down the line, they come back and tell me, hey, May, I now want to purchase title insurance. I cannot provide them with title insurance because in order for me to give a title insurance policy, I have to order a title report. It has to be part of a transaction. I have to order the title report. I have to clear whatever issues, whatever I've got going on that report, I have to clear it to then send it to my title insurance underwriter and say, hey, title insurance underwriter, hey, Fidelity, hey, First American, hey, Doma, hey, Old Republic, here is a clear title. It's part of this transaction, a purchase, a refinance, even a HELOC. That's really the loophole right there. Get a HELOC, right? Here is a clear title. Can you please now issue a title insurance policy? No, it's not like getting car insurance. I can't call, a State Farm or whoever else and saying, hey, I want to change my policy. I want to get new car insurance. Okay, not a problem. And just go ahead online and make sure that you have a really good driving record. Title insurance policy doesn't work that way. It can only be done through a transaction, and it can only be issued through clearance of a title commitment. I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, just drop something on the chat and I'll find another way to make it clear, right? So the first step is we're going to receive your order. We're going to order the title commitment. We're going to clear any outstanding issues. We're going to proceed for the closing and the funding. And once all of that's done, we're going to issue a title insurance policy. That is the phase. That is how it works out, right? I've already mentioned here the title report. I put on here, it's our holy grail. It literally is, right? And I'm sure some of you on this call have had, some type of closing delay because of issues with the title. What I can say here is a title policy cannot be issued without the clearance of the title commitment, period, point blank, end of story. Now, are there loopholes? Is there an option to close? Yes, there is. And the only way that we can issue a title insurance policy without a clear title is via a hold harmless agreement. I am a title agent. And I am going to emphatically say, I do not like those. Will I offer it if it makes sense, and only if the buyer is completely aware of what this means to their future and to their property? The way that a hold harmless works, let's say, for instance, and I'll give you a kind of quick example. Let's say it's a notice of commencement. It's a contractor's lien for a roof, right? And the new buyer comes in and says, hey, listen, you know what? The seller told me that they've already paid it off. You know, they showed me receipts. No big deal. I'm willing to continue purchasing the property without the contractor releasing that notice of commencement. I want releases for everything. I want proof that this contractor is not going to come back to my buyer and haunt them and say, oh, I never received payment. Because can it happen? Yes. The hold harmless agreement is basically a document that we would send to the buyer, and we would say, hey, buyer, you are aware that this is your title commitment. You are aware that there is a notice of commencement that has not been released. If you sign this document, we are going to make this exception. We're going to make this issue an exception to your policy, which means that if this contractor decides to say, I never got paid, or I don't know what payment you're talking about, and continues to enforce this notice of commencement, you're on your own. You're on your own. It's an exception to the policy, meaning that your title insurance policy is not going to cover that issue. That is the only time that you can actually close without having a clear title. But honestly, people ask us all the time, can we do a hold harmless? I have a job, and my job is to give a buyer a clear marketable title. And I will be very honest, and I will be clear with them, because I don't want you to get in trouble, and we don't want any future claims. And believe me, buyers are liars. I'm sorry to say it. They can always come back and say, you know what? Well, Kyla never mentioned that to me, or Claudine never mentioned that to me, or Crystal never mentioned that to me. They just presented this hold harmless document at the closing and I signed it. It happens. Trust me, I've seen it with my own eyes. I've seen this whole thing happen. I'm like, that's not true. We definitely have an email. Here we go. We definitely explained it to you. But again, that's the only exception to that rule. Not a favorable option. But just so you guys have it out there. What is our title commitment going to tell us? Well, it's going to retrieve everything in the courthouse. Guys, I will tell you this. We do see child supports. And there have been cases and times where we get a title commitment and there are criminal records, there are bankruptcy records, there is child support that is due by the seller. And we do get calls from these sellers, and they think that we're like invading their privacy. How do you know about that? That's supposed to be private information. Listen, anything that has to do with money, anything having to do with money that you owe as a seller and you own a piece of property, guess what? It is no longer private information. It is public information, because it's money you owe and they're using your property as collateral. So kind of keep that in mind. And oftentimes a lot of sellers don't realize, they're like, oh my God, I have to pay child support. Yeah, you do. Sorry. It's what happens. It's what has to go through the property, through the courts. Obviously it's going to show us legal ownership, land records, tax records, all that other nice stuff. Oh wait, I went too far. It's crucial. Again, you guys know we have to determine that the seller is the seller and has the full rights to sell this property. Point blank, period. That is what our title commitment is going to issue us. Any issues such as unpaid liens, disputes, classes must be addressed and resolved before the sale can proceed. And of course, again, I'll say this again, once a title is clear, a closing can occur and we can issue a title insurance policy, okay? Once that's done, we're gonna submit the deed and the mortgage to get recorded. The title insurance policy will be issued within 60 to 120 days, the actual policy itself. It doesn't mean that the buyer is not protected. The buyer is protected the day of closing. The moment that that buyer has signed their closing documents and the seller has signed the transfer of deed, we give this notice automatically to the title insurance underwriter. If anything happens, if any unrecorded liens pop up within 30 days, or if the seller wants to take out a HELOC, I've had that one before. If the seller wants to take out a HELOC 2 weeks before the closing and happens to cash out $20,000, and all of a sudden, 30, 45 days later, it's now recorded, and the buyer doesn't have the physical policy in their hands, don't worry about it. They already are protected from any issues that can happen from the time of closing all the way to however long they own the property. So I always want to make sure everybody knows that. It does take about 60 to 120 days for the title insurance underwriters to provide and mail this policy along with the original deed to the buyers or to the new homeowners. So some benefits, right? Some benefits of having title insurance. Number one, you're doing a comprehensive title search. We're figuring out, are these documents forged? Is there title fraud here going on? Is there something here that doesn't seem right? So you're getting a comprehensive title search. You're getting a protection against fraud. Now, if any of these issues, let's say an heir comes in and says, oh, like the example I did before, an heir comes in and says, well, you guys should have never sold that property. That property was through a probate. The probate was never done. Title insurance will cover your legal fees. So you've got that, right? They'll even offer financial compensation if there's any fraud or any issues that they can determine, hey, this was a fraudulent deed done, or hey, this was an issue that was taken that wasn't that was done incorrectly. It's peace of mind, right? I do want to say though, and this is something that I'm sure some of you on this call have heard or are kind of wondering, and it has to do with a comprehensive title search, right? There are underwriters, not title insurance underwriters. I can tell you right now, there is not one title insurance underwriter that I know of, and I've been in this business for quite some time, so I know quite a few, that will approve attorney opinion letters. Now, this is an option, and there are some lending underwriters that are offering this. And basically, all it is they're saying, listen, we will accept an attorney opinion letter, which is nothing more than a comprehensive title search. That's all it is. We're going to get our attorney. They're going to draft us this opinion letter. They're going to do their research. They're going to get a title commitment. They're going to do all of this, and they're going to make a determination that this property is clear. We're going to clear everything off. But what they're not going to give your buyer is a title insurance policy. Now, I ask 25 of you on this call, after knowing what title insurance covers and what title fraud is, would you guide your buyer and saying, hey, I think your best option is an attorney opinion letter? It makes no sense. But there is an option for it. They are presenting it. Supposedly it's supposed to be less expensive. I'm just letting you know right now, this is what we've been hearing down the pipeline. This is what some lending underwriters are offering buyers. So I'm very happy, Claudine, that you put on this class, because it is something that they're pitching to kind of say, we're going to lower the cost, whatever the case is, right? But it's all it is. All an attorney opinion letter is just a comprehensive title search. It doesn't protect them against anything. It doesn't protect them against title fraud. It doesn't protect them against any issues that may have happened in the past that can now appear in the future. Aside from that, I hope I did not overwhelm everybody too much. But if you want a copy of this presentation, you can either text me your name and your email, or you can scan the code. It'll direct it to my blink.me. I'll see all the new names on there, and I'll know that it's for this class, and I can send you guys a copy of this training. And I am going to open it now, Crystal, for any questions. I think we're on time.
Absolutely. Guys, drop some fire for Mei-Ling before we get into questions. I want to make sure that we have engagement. This was so educational. And me as a mortgage loan officer and a realtor, I'm like, oh my God, I took so many notes, guys. So the fact that she's sending us the presentation is a big deal. So I'm going to drop a link in the chat, guys. Claudianne wants to make sure that we continue to get the information. So if you want to work with new title, all right, fill out the form that's in the chat box right now. I'm going to drop it one more time. And we're going to open it up to questions in 1 second, Mei Ling. If anybody has learned anything today, I want you guys to drop one thing that you learned, all right? So drop that right now. What have we learned from this presentation as real estate professionals to bring a value to our clients? So if you've learned anything, please drop that in the chat and fill out the link.
I hope so.
No, I know they have. I know they have. So it's a different type of thing when we present information and then they go and they apply it to their business. So I want people to drop what they learned. So Kayla said it was very knowledgeable. People are dropping fire in the chat. She knows her stuff. Guys, drop here. Let me drop the form again. Most of you guys are filling it out. But I want to know what you guys learned. What was the key takeaway? So that's important. Okay, so how important it is to know why title insurance is vital. Okay, very detailed info. So Rosemary, you responded first. Send me your Cash App. So lunch is on Claudianne. So she's going to be paying for your lunch. So Rachel, you hear me? Rosemary, please send me your Cash App and we're going to be paying for your lunch today.
Wow. I didn't even know that was happening.
We just want people to engage with us, right? We provide the content, we bring you the information, we bring you the experts, right? We have Mei Ling here. She took an hour from her day, and we want to really make sure that you guys have the information, and we want to celebrate you guys. So lunch is on Claudianne. So Rosemary, send us your Cash App. $25 going your way. All right.
I'm gonna pay it forward. I'm gonna pay it forward for someone else to have lunch.
Okay. So guys, let's see, what else have you guys learned? So Rosemary, who do you want to pay it forward to? There's a few comments in the chat right there that we could pay it forward. And guys, I hope you're writing down your questions because we're going to open it up to questions. We don't want it that later on, like, dang. So this is the time. We have Mei Ling for a good 8 more minutes. All right.
I would say Tanya, because she was the next one who looks like she was the next one.
Hey, so Tanya, lunch is on Claudianne, then Rose. So lunch is on.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. All right, Mei Ling, let's open it up to questions. Anyone have a question for Mei Ling?
I have a question. And I don't know if it's going to be for her or not, for you, Mei Ling, or not. So what if you have a property, right? I own a property and a lien is put against me personally, right? From whether it's child support, whatever it is. And there's a lien. And now I own this home, right? And I decide that I'm going to sell this home. And now I transfer this home ownership to someone else because of this lien that I have against me, just so you can kind of get away from not paying that lien. Is that something that comes up in title? Is that something that could be brought up, and to who?
So yes, it'll definitely appear in your title, especially if it was against you. So the key here is if you own property and you have a personal lien, whatever it is, it could be a foreclosure lien. Let's say you had a foreclosed property, right? Years ago, and you were one of those that decided to say, you know what? I'm not going to file for bankruptcy. I'm not going to do a short sale. I am just going to let the bank take this property. That foreclosure judgment becomes a lien. So the bank will basically say, hey, you owe us $200,000 because you let your property go into foreclosure. There's a whole schematic into that. I'm not going to, where they come up with that money, but I won't go too far into that. The point is that any lien that is under your name goes attached to the property or properties that you own. So any title company, regardless of whether you transfer it via quick claim deed, which is what I'm understanding you're going to do. You're going to transfer it through a quick claim deed. They're still going to come back and say that that owner, whoever you transferred it to, that still needs to be paid off. Why? Because your chain of title is going to show you were the owner of this property, right? The lien hit while you were owner of it, and you quick claim deed it to someone else. That still has to be paid off. Why? Because remember, title insurance, if you remove yourself completely, title insurance isn't going to cover that. And it wasn't done through a transaction, through a sale. The only time that there would be a loophole, in my personal opinion, is if you sell the property. Let's say you put the property on for sale, and that lien was either not recorded by public records during the time that you were doing that sale, or during the time you were doing that closing, or the title company missed it and the property was sold to the new buyer, then at that point, the new buyer can use the title insurance policy and saying, hey, listen, I have a lien that's against Crystal in my house, but I bought this house and the lien is still here. They can always claim the title company for not doing their due diligence if it appeared in the commitment at the time that they were doing the closing, or send it to the title insurance underwriter to handle if that lien wasn't recorded on time. So in essence, just pay it. Because
yeah, it's just let's just get it clear here. It's not me. I'm asking.
No, I know.
Asking, you know what? I'm asking because it's actually one of my family members that I just it was sketchy, and I knew it, and I'm like, this you know, they have to pay. Like, you can't just decide, okay, I'm no longer the owner of this house, we're going to put it in this person's name, sell it, and not be responsible for that lien that you have up, you know, against you. So I appreciate your response.
Once it's recorded, it's recorded. If it has anything to do with money, it's going to go against the property at collateral. And if they have several properties, and this is often what I see too, right? So you have investors, or you have a homeowner that says, hey, I've got this property, but now I purchased another investment property. Any liens that are against one property attached to every property they own. So we've been able to come across and saying, okay, he owns 5 properties. Or maybe you guys have dealt with this before, just to kind of give an example so you can see where it comes from. Let's say you have a homeowner, right? You have a sale, and this homeowner, this client of yours, owns 5 different properties, but he has a lien on property A, but you're selling property C. On property C, that title commitment is going to show every single property is going to show that he has a lien on property A. In order for me to close on this deal, I either have to get an agreement from the creditor or from the person that placed this lien and saying, hey, listen, the homeowner is selling property C, but this lien is against property A. Can we proceed with this closing? Can we remove this lien from this property in order to close, right? If the creditor comes back and says, no, absolutely not, like, I want this paid, then it has to be paid. Regardless of whether that lien is for property A, property B, property D, it doesn't matter. It's up to the creditor. But anything that is recorded on public records will attach to the property. Point blank, period. Only way around it is to pay. Get it done. Or not get a lien, right? Not get a lien. We have Kyla has a question.
Yes, I have a question. Hi, good afternoon. Maylene, happy Wednesday. My camera's off because, well, I'll turn it on. You won't be able to see me. I'm driving. Thank you so much for the information. This was very informative. I was one of those that thought it was better to and more beneficial to work with a real estate attorney versus a title company that doesn't have a real estate attorney. But thank you for shedding light on that. My question is, you're welcome. So I did see that you said it is possible, I think this is what you said, that it is possible to close on a transaction by having what is the word you said? Hold harmless? Is that what you said?
Hold harmless. Yes.
Okay, yes. So here's Okay, so here's the situation. There's this listing that I have. In the past, we were under contract, but the previous underwriter stated that the property had to go through probate. Before the previous owner, before they died, they did a quitclaim deed the property to their relative. However, the deed was not properly recorded with the county, so that was just like a big mess. But nonetheless, the same buyer came back. Now they're working with another title company, and the title company on the contract, well, the buyer on the contract this time around, they put that they list all of the, I guess, the heirs from the previous will. And they stated that the seller would have to pay out each person X amount of money, and they list the persons as joint ventures, and it says for benefit of buying and selling of this property. Is that legitimate?
That means that either one of the heirs placed claim to the property. They may have filed a lien. In order for a title insurance underwriter, so the purpose of a title insurance underwriter is they're the ones that give us the title commitments, right? So think of it this way. When you're getting a loan, right? When a buyer is getting a loan, is it the loan officer that's giving the title commitment? No, it's the underwriter. So the underwriter is reviewing the file, and they're basically coming back and saying, hey, Kayla, if you want us to loan this buyer money, these are our conditions. This is what has to happen. We need verification letter, so on and so forth. It's the same concept on the title end. So when we submit a file to our examiners are going in and they're going through every single court record. They're doing name searches, they're doing court record searches, they're doing forensic searches. I mean, we've even had people situations on our commitment of an OFAC, right? Which is a foreign international security system, where it basically says that the owner's name is appearing in the most wanted list, FBI wanted list, for whatever reason. Yes. So if a title commitment that comes back from an underwriter is giving you that condition, it's because someone placed the claim. Someone either filed something in the county courthouse, they made a notice, they're basically saying, hey, listen, we know that this quitclaim deed was done incorrectly. Thankfully, they caught it because it was recorded in the wrong county. That leads me to believe that an heir did it themselves. Instead of going to an attorney, they did it themselves. The family found out. Someone pulled up a copy of the will. And now this will was sent into an attorney, and they come to find out, hold on, wait a minute. The will says that the person that passed away wants to split the monies with everyone. So if it's coming out on the title commitment, it's because the title insurance underwriter found something on public records, and they have to honor it. They have to put it on there, and they have to say, this is the only way to sell the house. They have to do this because it's part of their will.
Okay. So this is what the buyer wrote on the contract. We haven't gone under contract yet. I just want to make sure that, it wasn't fictitious before like proceeding with the next steps. But okay, this is very enlightening. I look forward to working with you guys. This is so cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I just want y'all to know that when you close with our company, we're going to be providing your client with a gift at closing, curtailed just from you and our staff. So we just want you to have a seamless closing. We want you to show up, and on behalf of you and all the things, how you can get a client from, and it's not easy, guys. We think, oh, real estate is easy. We're just going to throw the files at the title. No, you're an intricate part of that. And so we want to pay it forward. And so definitely that's one thing we're going to be offering for your clients at closing, a very personalized closing gift. And we're excited about that. Anybody has any other questions?
They're asking where our office is located. I'm going to give you the short answer. Our office is located where you want our office to be. About 95% of our closings happen outside of our offices, but we do have several locations in South Florida. And they also posted we have offices in New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Texas, North Carolina. So we'll accommodate to however we need.
All right, guys. Well, it is 1:04. I thank you guys for being here. Thank you for being the student. Thank you, Maylene, for being here and teaching us the things that we need to know before we get into the trouble and learn and find out the wrong way. You know, maybe once every quarter, we'd love to have you here so that we can keep pouring into the agents. They'll keep having questions and scenarios, and we'll be able to help them.
Absolutely. Just let me know and I'll make it happen.
All right, guys, that's our time. See you later.
Bye.